Hello, Terry here. Hot wrench fabrication. Ready for another part of this build. I'll show you a little bit of the outside of the hot wrench fabrication shop. Kind of a mess right now. I got stuff everywhere, but that's what happens when you're a messy mechanic. So today I'm going to attempt to put this here metal 16 gauge in the trunk. Got my cooler when it's not so hot out. Little robot man and his dog that I made. Harbor Freight tranny jack that I converted to a rear end jack. Works out pretty good. And a little table. Some fun stuff. So July was the hottest on record that we've had here in Phoenix. Every day was basically over 115. It was ridiculous. When we come in here, we got some nice air conditioning and more of a mess. So I finished the wheel tubs on the last episode, and I need to clean up a little bit before I start on the next one. Got stuff all over the place. But another little picture of my shop. Motorcycle lift over here, which acts as a really nice catch-all. If it's a flat surface, I'm going to find something to put on there. This is the motor that's going in this thing. It's a blueprint, not blueprinted, but blueprint motor. That's the actual company that made it. Supposedly about 500 horse, small block 383. This is a aluminum 5.3 out of my buddy's sandrail. This one's getting some bearings. Had a little issue with the oil pressure dropping down in the mains. Picked that up. Has a little bit of gold on there, so we're getting the crank turn 1010 and put some bearings in that and put that back together. So that's what I got. All this junk over here is his motor. So yeah, stuff everywhere. So we will clean up and then start showing you what I'm going to do on this trunk. Put a little piece in here. I haven't 100% decided how I want to do it yet. I don't know if I want to just like try and fit it right in here and flush it with this. I thought about covering the whole entire thing, but that's going to be hard to go around all these different obstacles and stuff. So that's next. Stay tuned. So I thought I would show you guys some of the tools that I use. I'm a bit of a tool whore. As you can see, there's tools everywhere around here. I'm going to highlight my shrinker stretcher today. So let's say you want to make a little flange that sits on here and has a like 90-degree bend to it, which would actually be kind of hard to do if you didn't have the right tools. So I just took a piece of sheet metal I had laying around, scrap piece, and I'm going to bend it 90 degrees. Of course, it helps to have a little brake like this. Finger brake, box brake. Oichi! Oichi mama! Okay, so now I have a 90-degree flange, right? And now I want to bend that to go around here, so I can either have it flange go that way, or I can have the flange come out this way. So I think I'll just do it this way for demonstration purposes. So basically I need it to curve. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this in here, and this is going to be my shrinker stretcher from Harbor Freight. And it's kind of cool how these things work. You just put a little pedal input, and you can see how that's starting to curve. And this is extremely cost efficient, I guess I should say, instead of cheap. This is a pretty cheap one, but so far it's really worked out pretty good. I don't use it very often. It's kind of, see that? It's kind of rare that you need to make something like this, but when you do, I mean, how else are you going to stretch that around there like that? So obviously we need to go a little bit more. And then on the other side, there's a shrinker. It actually does a opposite, it would bring this in. So if you go a little bit too far, you can shrink it back down a little bit. And you gotta be careful on the pedal a little too much, and it really bites down. And they're obviously limited how thick you can go on this. This is 18 gauge. Really wouldn't want to go much thicker than this. On the ends it doesn't quite work as good. You make it a little long. Make it a little long and you can trim it off. See how cool that is? I just really dig this thing. And then you go up here. Oh, hey there. You actually went, well, it's straight right here, but as you can see, it's not too shabby. So a little bit more tweaking. I went just a teeny bit too much. So I could bring some of these ends in a little bit or just lob it off, but if I wanted to shrink these back up, go in here and shrink it up. And it makes that straight. Same thing on this side. And then we can go and stretch this just a tiny bit more in the middle. There we go. Actually not too bad. So if I was making a piece for that, which I'm not, so that's what I would do. So kind of neat. And then weld that up, and then I can make some straight pieces if I want and clean that all out. But I mean, this is underneath the car, so I don't really need it, but that's how a shrinker stretcher works. Pretty cool. So these tools are very expensive, so when people wonder why you charge so much, well, because this stuff's not free. I have a rack of tubing and metal shaping equipment over here, and that all goes in these plugs right here. I got these receiver hitches in the floor, and that's on a stand. I can just pop those up and put them in there. Tubing roller, tubing bender. This is a plenishing hammer for flattening out sheet metal, and this guy, you can make curves and stuff in there. Shear, and then this is a bead roller for making different patterns in the metal. So it takes a lot of equipment to get this stuff done, but a lot of the basics, you know, welder, plasma cutter, those are kind of nice to have for the majority of this stuff. Like the floor today, when I put that in there, just plasma cut it out, sit it in there, weld it, and I'll be done. So there'll be a lot of shaping, but what the heck. So yeah, shrinker stretcher. When you're done with it, you just shove it back in the corner, and like I said, it doesn't get used very often, but when you need it, it works marvelous. Floor's all done. It was pretty easy. It was actually a perfect square, 38 inches. Just put a little bend in it here, a little bend in it there. Welded it up. Looks nice. All this is fairly level. And then cut a big hole when the fuel cell comes in. Gigantic hole in the middle, make it all nice. And I'm not sure what I want to do about this. I could make pieces to go in here. Then you're gonna have a seam, but I don't know. I think maybe we'll just put some carpet back here or something. Still things to figure out. But I think next what I want to do is fill this. Since I'm gonna have a fuel cell, I'm not gonna need that anymore, so I'm gonna attempt to fill that, see how it turns out. Well, I got my gas filler filled. Turned out all right. I don't do much body work, so it's a little rough, but it's kind of below the surface just a tiny bit, which I think is okay because we can just put a thin coat of Bondo on there. I mean, it took my time, but it's still kind of warped a little bit. I just did a bunch of little bzz, bzz and went around there, but I'm okay with that. Better going in than coming out because, like I said, we just put a nice coat of filler over there. Should be good. So today I'm going to attempt to make some exhaust tips and a little housing, basically. Something to this effect. Obviously that's just a crude drawing. I've seen some actually come all the way down, which I think is kind of a cool deal. Two tips coming out kind of at an angle. So that's today's project. I'm going to start making a template and see what I can come up with. These turned out pretty good. Made this exhaust tips for this thing, and I got to finish grinding them and smooth them out a little bit and weld them in. I'm put little countersunk screws in there. Should look kind of cool. So got that done on both sides. That was a little bit of work to do, but not too shabby. Had the base pieces, one piece, and then took the sides here and welded it on there, and then ground down after I made this outside bezel. Ground it down to match the contour, so there's no gaps in there. And then just weld it together. And then the next thing I'm going to do is put this 69 Camaro bumper on the back of this bad boy. So the normal bumpers on these things are huge. They sit the whole entire length of this. And they're kind of gaudy looking. So these 69 Camaro bumpers are kind of a popular switch over for quite a few different cars. But it's going to look pretty neat. Oh! And they actually fit on there pretty good. I'm going to have to narrow it up just a little bit. But you can see. And then I'm going to put a little roll pan underneath there. So that's the plan for today. Oh, that's noisy. Oh, my finger's cut. Sorry. All right, so that's what we're doing today. A little cutting and grinding. So I got the bumper mocked up. Cut it right here, cut about an inch out on both sides. See, it has a nice little fit there. There's a little space all the way around. And right now I just have it bolted underneath here with two little tabs that I made. I still need to make some brackets off the original ones. But it's turned out pretty good. Looks nice on there. Once I get that all straightened out and welded on there and where I like it, then I need to make a little roll pan come down underneath here. So that's what's next. Got the bumper mounted up. It's pretty solid. Took the old mount, chopped it all up, and then it's kind of, let's see, let me get a light. Just took some scrap metal and welded it all up there. Hooked it to welded it all to the bumper. Welded that bracket to that bracket to that bracket. So I can at least use the factory bolts and take it on and off. So pretty happy with that. I think it's gonna work. And then started building my roll pan. It's for the license plate. So this bumper's upside down for a Camaro because the cutout for the license plate used to go up. So I flipped it upside down so it'll go down, and then this is the first piece. I welded this on there so I'd have something to bring the roll pan down to. But it's going to stick down a little bit for the license plate, which is okay. It'll look good. So now I'm going to fill in these two pieces, and then I got an old motorcycle headlight bucket for my corners. I thought that would be an easy way to make a curved compound corner. I mean, I could do it with all that stuff over there, but it's a pain in the horse. So I'll just use this, cut a little pie out of it, and should fit pretty good. So that's my next step. Well, I think that turned out pretty good. Really my first attempt at making a lower balance panel like that. Started off with just making this piece here for the license plate. Kind of matches the little cutouts already there. And then made these two little sections, just kind of rolled them over. And then for the end caps, I actually took a motorcycle headlight bezel and cut little triangles out of them since they're already compound curved and everything, and welded them in there. Needs a little bit of finish work, a little bumpy right there, but a little Bondo and a little more sanding should fix that nicely. See, the side's still chrome. So yeah, I like it. Gotta do just a little bit more finish work on it. The bumper's just sitting there. Bolt it down still and center everything out, but yeah, I think it looks good. What do you guys think? So next is gonna be mounting the fuel cell. That should be coming pretty soon, and then I gotta clean up and figure out what I'm doing with the welds and stuff in there, make that all nice. And then these are pretty much done. Just a little tiny bit more tweaking on them. They turned out pretty good. We gotta weld those in there, but it looks cool. And on the back side, cut a hole in here and then figure out what to do with the exhaust. Probably come up over here and then run it, but I need a motor and tranny in there first, and then swap this front end over. Like I said before, everything's all old and deteriorated and frozen up, so we're just going to get a new one. Drop the motor and tranny and then fabricate an exhaust, and then start hanging some sheet metal. So it's going along pretty good. So I think that concludes part 2 with the Nova build, and appreciate you guys hanging out and watching. If you have some comments about the build, please put down. I don't really get many comments, but it'd be kind of cool to see some so I can answer you guys. But thanks for watching, and you guys take care.